Well, welcome. This is Selling Houston P.O.V. I'm Bernard Lewis, and
I'm Ebony Royal.
Aisha Shelton.
And we have a special guest that I want Ebony to talk about.
So we have a special guest joining us today, Miss Tatiana Hall of LA Top Broker. She is a lender that I use quite often with some of my real estate deals, and I do love, and respect her so much. She has great personality. She communicates well, and we are just excited today to have her on the show. And let's get into it. Let's talk about these interest rates.
Let's talk about them. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. I definitely appreciate it. But these interest rates are, they're disrespectful. They are disrespectful. So I had a conversation with actually one of my realtor partners yesterday. And, we were talking about the fact that the rates themselves are not really high, right? Themselves, they're not really bad. It's not really high. We are, undergoing a correction in the market, right? Because mortgages are what drive the economy. Mm-hmm. And we have to stabilize the economy at this point. It's been a free-for-all for the last 2 years, mm-hmm. I like to call it was the Wild Wild West, or you know what I mean? And yes. So people were taking over, and now interest rates, they're at a stable part. But why they're disrespectful is because they went from like 2.8 to 5. Like, wait, what happened to 3? What happened to 4? And in a matter of time, right? Like a short period of time. Like there was no room, no warning. It just happened. And the anticipation is that it's going to continue to grow. So these interest rates, everybody's feeling it, especially those borrowers who are out there that were pre-approved, kind of hanging right at the thread. I'm sure you guys have had that experience and you're like, oh my God, what do we do now? Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say that I think that we need to take some time and really dive into how it is impacting the market and people that, whether it's new construction, people that got under contract for a certain price point and anticipated having a certain interest rate. But here you are 8 months down the line and you have a totally different outcome and perspective of your note because of the interest rate. But yeah, let's dive in and talk about how is this interest rate impacting the market?
It's definitely disrupting things. So there have been tons of smaller lenders who have completely went out of business.
Oh my goodness.
Went belly up. Yep. I mean, and this correction is what we're in. What month is this? It's April 21st, right? In 4 months, they have went out of business. And we're talking about, people who were powerful, right? Over the past 2 years, they're completely out of commission now. So, and I see.
So what, I mean, is it because they're just not getting enough new contracts or new buyers?
A combination. So for the most part, their business model when they were created, they were built for where we were, right? Where the rates were. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a plan of action in place for, a change like this, which is never wise because we know in real estate, the market is always going to shift. It's ever changing. It'll never be consistent. It's a roller coaster.
It is.
Yeah. So, and I see you agree. You agree. So,
So what you have to say, Aisha? What's your thoughts?
About the interest rates, I mean, just like she said, it's a ride that we're going to have to take. I think now we're shifting our conversation with our clients about it. Whereas when it was in the 2%, it's it's time, let's go, it's now. I still think that it's time because they're still low, historically lower than they've been before, mm-hmm. just higher than they were, yesterday, last year. And so making sure that as agents, we're changing our conversations to not scare people into buying houses or waiting to buy a house or waiting for the interest rates to go down, because we all know that you miss those opportunities.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. My biggest thing with the interest rates, for the people that are looking to build, I think those are the people that really put a lot on the line there, because we don't know what it will be 5 months from now. They've disclosed, verbally have said that the government, that they will be going up and up and up.
So lock your rate.
That's last year they were talking about.
But not everybody is able to lock the rate, though.
Not for that long,
Not for
right?
that
Not those
long.
new construction
Right.
clients.
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
There's
So-
new products out there, though.
Well,
There's
now
new
there are.
but
yeah.
and it's not saying, and don't take it where, oh, you cannot buy a new house. No, maybe you shouldn't be building a home. Maybe you should buy an inventory home. Maybe you should get a Park Street home that's ready to go. That type of thing. So that part is what people kind of have to get their heads wrapped around. And most builders have went to that model where, look, I'll give you 10 different options of what I have, but you have to pick one.
Yeah.
You can't build one. I'm not building one for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that only helps because it's a quicker closing. And then at that point, you can lock in those interest rates at a similar time
Right.
because it's something that's available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes back to the conversation that we're having with our clients, right? Like, let me set the stage for you where we are now. Because when clients come in and they think, I'm ready to buy a house, and then they start dreaming about the color of the tile and the backsplash and the color brick and all
Calm
that.
down.
And it's like,
Yeah.
not in this market, right?
Not in this market.
And so,
right.
and then we have to change their tune about buying a house. This is just your first house. This isn't your last house. You're young, or whatever the situation is. We're overcoming these objections because it's still a good time to buy.
It's always a good time to buy real estate. I mean, really, it is, you know.
To
I
buy
mean,
and sell.
to buy and sell.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
true.
it's a really good time to sell. And we went to, we went to an event today.
Oh, my
and,
goodness.
Yeah. And I know many of you probably know Tom Ferry. Tom Ferry spoke today. And, he has been in the business for a very long time. He has his pulse on the market, and he is a data-driven individual. And based on the data, we're looking at another 6 years of rising costs. So again, is it a good time to buy? Of course, because as the rising costs happen, so does your, equity gain. In addition, the feds are projected to raise the interest rates 4 more times by the end of the year. So is it a good time to buy? Yes, it's a good time to buy. Yeah. So I think it's just being informed and making sure that I think we said this on previous podcasts, do what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do what's best for you. But there are a lot of different solutions out there. I think the ARMs are coming back.
Yes, they are.
I think there are new products with a lot of lenders where you can lock in your rate for 12 months. You got to pay for it. So I think it's just an individual thing.
It is an individual thing. And I tell people that all the time, when we talk to people about, is it a good time to buy? What's a good loan product? It's like, it depends. It depends. It depends on you. Like, we need to dig into what it is that you're trying to accomplish and achieve, and what you can accomplish and achieve. And then we can come up with a solution for you. But it just depends. We have to talk to each one of you, and there's a different answer for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask you, Tatiana, like, what is it that sets you apart? Like, what is your, what's your value proposition in the market of all of these mortgage lenders out here?
Yeah. So, we, for the most part, right, many of us can do the same thing, right? Many of us have the same tricks in our bag. I have some nice, amazing tricks in mind, though. But no, seriously, my pricing is amazing. And so at LA Top Broker, right, we actually, our monogram is lending made affordable. And we definitely believe in home ownership for all. And so with that being said, we put our money where our mouth is, and our pricing, it matches that, right? So, my compensation is relatively lower than a lot of my counterparts because, right, I believe in actually helping homeowners as well as myself, right? But actually helping homeowners. And I realized that a lot of potential homeowners, they're not ready buyers. And that's really the root of all of this, because those options, they can't get presented until you're actually qualified.
That's right.
Right. And we got to make you a ready buyer so that you are out there. And that's what sets me apart, right? Like I put emphasis in education, in time, in tender love and care into cultivating ready buyers.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper. Okay. Because we have people that are probably listening to this podcast or watching this podcast that want to know, what do you mean by pricing? Like, what does that mean? What does that equate to? Like, what does it mean?
So this goes back to my previous point with these interest rates being disrespectful. So typically, right, rates, they come at a cost or a credit, right? And for the past 2 years, and generally speaking, lenders are able to offer something called a par rate. That's something I want you guys to make sure that you're making your customers familiar with. If you're listening, understand that term, par rate. That means that there's no charge, there's no credit, right? This is just your rate. You'll see no extra fees, right, on your fee sheet. You'll see no extra fees on your loan estimate or your disclosure. That's generally how it is. Now, rates are disrespectful because a lot of lenders aren't even offering par rates right now. You're either paying or you're getting a credit. And if you're getting a credit, that means your interest rate is through the roof, right, in comparison. So, but with that being said, pricing is important because a lot of the time, and I'll tell you the truth, right, and I'm upfront with people, our compensation for the most part is wrapped into the rate. It's wrapped into the rate. And so, right, like if I don't pull my compensation out and I let the lender pay me, or if I work for a bank, right, and the bank is going to pay me, they wrap that compensation that I'm going to receive, they wrap it into the buyer's rate. And that's not really something that we talk about. And that's important because, you know, me as the loan officer or as the broker or the bank, whoever the lender is, I get to set how much I'm going to charge, right? Okay. I set that up front. From the jump. And so what I charge is what I charge. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so it's a process that I would have to go through to change it individually for each client that I have. But it's generally set, it's like a blanket, you know, number that this is just what we do because we're moving in volumes. Right. So my pricing is a lot lower because my charges are a lot lower.
Yeah, because I've worked with you in the past, and I know you've said that before, and I'm like, what exactly does she mean by that? So I'm glad. Thank you for clarifying that.
I'll tell you, as an agent, that very specific knowledge that you have as a salesperson, I'm always telling my clients, like, that's a lender question. Like, ask your lender, because she has very specific training. She has very specific knowledge about your specific situation and everything that has to do with the lending side. And I want you to feel empowered to ask your lender these questions too, because she works for you, just like I work for you. And you know what I mean? So I did not know that. Let's be clear.
I learned something new today as well.
Yeah. I did not know that, but also I think that us working together as a team is important so that, one, we can ask those questions and understand that, but then also that I let my client feel empowered to ask you those questions too. Like, you need to understand that, girl. You better go ask her.
Yeah. And let's also be clear. Yeah.
Did I say it?
Yes, you did. You did. So let's the reality is that who are they calling at 10 o'clock at night? Who are they calling early in the morning? 9 times out of 10, it's not the lender.
It's the realtor.
It's the realtor.
But that's where you're the compassionate realtor, and you're the one that's like, I'm gonna compassionate. I'm gonna walk you. I'm gonna make sure you feel okay.
And but it is what sets us apart, though. I mean, it's true. What the more as a realtor knowledge that I know about the lending side, I'm just the less time wasted for all parties. Right. If you know more specifics about whether this client is going to make it all the way to the closing table. And by having that information ahead of time and really knowing the ins and out of the loan, again, we're not loan officers, but if we know the big picture of ins and outs, then it's less time wasted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I imagine lenders are different and have different perspectives. I care what your perspective is. What do you want the person, your partners that you work with to have that knowledge, or do you want them to be like, send them to me? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong or you're right or wrong. I'm just curious.
how you feel about it as a loan officer.
I like a healthy medium, right?
Okay.
I feel like you should have some sort of knowledge.
Yes.
Right? But that's also, right, with my realtor partners, we have to have a relationship. And so when we're having conversations, these are things that we're talking about. I'm educating you. You're educating me because there's things that I don't know either about the real estate side, right? So we're educating each other so that we can make sure that we're both prepared for the full transaction, you know?
And I have to say, she really does that. Like, seriously, like we will be having a conversation and I may mention something. I don't know, think of something we talked about in the past. And she'll be like, tell me more about that. Like, I'm not familiar with that. And I want to know, like, how does that work?
Yep.
You know, how do you, so it is a give and take. And that's why I like the working relationship that we have.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're talking about interest rates.
Yep.
Right. Which I feel like
Mortgage
is a good
payments.
way, and mortgage payments is a good segue into tax rates. Right? Is that what we said? Okay, cool. So tax rates. So a lot of people are moving to Houston. I mean, it's a great city. The Houston area.
Welcome.
We love you.
Yes,
we welcome you. There's a few realtors, on panel, if you can reach out to us. But not all of Houston is Houston. And if you've seen, who was it, just Brittany or somebody who did the...
Oh, you're not from Houston? Yeah, it was just...
Pearland's not Houston. Missouri City's not Houston. Galveston's not Houston. She ratchet. Okay.
I want to be on it.
Okay, I'll show it to you. But
y'all get
they're
me
not
on
Houston.
it.
They're not Houston.
I didn't think I should watch that kinds of stuff.
Because I do a really great job at keeping my brand on par. Okay?
But she ratchet.
Let me find out.
a little bit.
She from Galveston.
But there are some advantages. Galveston, not Houston. Okay.
She from Galveston. Okay.
So there is an advantage to living in the city of Houston, right? And there's a difference between, because everybody that I hear that's coming from out of town want to move to, give it to me.
Houston.
No. When they say, I'm moving to Houston, I want to go look in
Katy.
Okay.
Oh,
Everybody want to live in Katy.
That's number one on Google.
Got a budget of $230,000 and you want to live in Katy. What does that mean? What does that mean? What's the tax rate look like in Houston? What are the advantages for living in the city? And I'll quote Mayor Sylvester Turner when he says, stop moving to the lands. Pear land, sugar land, woodland. Y'all come live in the city. We are advocates for the city.
That's right. I am.
Bernard.
Oh,
I am becoming an advocate.
You really are.
Yes,
you really are.
I am. I'm
Mayor Turner, I will bring you that money.
Shout out to my recent client. I'm telling you, they were all in the Heights and the Midtown and the Rice military area. And I have been working in the suburbs, but I love the city.
Yes.
It's nice. It's nice out here. So what does the tax rate do for your mortgage payment?
Okay, so the biggest thing that I educate all my borrowers on is I give them the backstory about Texas first, right? So Texas is a state where we don't pay state taxes. Mm-hmm. And so we have to still fund our government, right? Our government still has to be funded. Schools have to be funded. And so the bulk of that funding comes from our property taxes. Which is why we do have a hefty tax rate in comparison across the country.
Yeah.
So lower prices, but in comparison, our tax rate it's pretty steep. Now, on average, kind of no matter where you are, a good safe point to say a good midpoint is about 3%.
Yep.
So your interest rate is going to be about 3% of your purchase price. So if you guys trying to figure out the math, you literally take your purchase price times by 3, hit percent on the calculator. Tax rate. Yes. Hit 3% on the calculator, and it's going to tell you what that is. You divide that number by 12, right? And so they can get a little steep. So, they could be upwards to, $1,100-$1,200 a month, just depending on what purchase price we're looking at.
What areas come to that $1,100 to $1,200 a month?
So Pearland is extremely expensive. Their tax rate it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Well, okay, so let me clarify.
Oh, you're in Pearland, right?
She is Pearland. You better get crazy.
You better clarify.
But okay, to understand tax rate, you guys know tax rates are not by city. it's not by the city.
Mhm.
It's not by the city of Pearland. So there are pockets of Pearland where the tax rate is 2.4.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's
and
true.
then there are pockets of Pearland where the tax rate is 3.6. You know, so it really is by subdivision.
It's actually a combination of everything, and you can actually
It's a
find this
combination.
information
Yeah,
on
it
HAR. So like it'll show you like the general tax
Yes.
rate on HAR.
I'm looking at
But
it now.
if you click that word tax rate, it'll actually break it down. So it's a combination of
Mhm.
city taxes, MUD, if you have MUD taxes, school
That's why-
district, county. And so it just
Right.
depends on literally where you are. So I tell people all the time, like, I might have a house right here. We might be in the same neighborhood and have two different tax rates.
Yeah.
like, because of
Absolutely.
how the zoning
The
is.
zoning, and that's what I wanted to. It's, you know, I had to put that out there. We talking about my city, but it's true
Not Houston.
because my
Right.
mom, right? But my parents, you know, they live in Manville, and their tax rate is like 2.6. But on the other side of the street, it's same exact subdivision because the city taxes in Manville are less, but they pay mud tax
Mm.
in the area. So everybody's taxed on mud. So on the other side where there's city, Pearland, yeah, it's a higher tax rate. So it might be 3% over there. But I mean, again, you can't lump it by city.
No,
Yeah.
no, you can't.
In any of Houston. So I think that's important to know is
I
to
agree.
do your research on the neighborhood or the home, not
Or
even the neighborhood.
And
the actual
contact
specific
one of
home.
us.
Get a realtor.
Contact
Yes,
one of us.
Stop trying
absolutely.
to like
Don't even do
don't
it.
do
Let
it.
yeah.
Just get yourself a realtor, and
Mhm.
they'll help
Let
you
us
sort
do the
through
work.
all of that.
Yeah.
But okay, so what's the tax rate in Houston again?
About 2.4, 2.3.
Okay, so move to Houston.com. Call me.
Yeah.
I mean, or Bernard.
or
Ebony.
Ebony.
Lady.
Or me too.
And get approved with
Right?
Tatiana.
No, so I
Yes.
mean, we started the conversation about tax rate, and I just think that you should do your research. You want to move to Houston, Katie, not Houston, Pearland, not Houston, Galveston, not Houston.
I mean, we
Yeah.
can help you, but I mean, the payment looks completely
the payment looks
different.
different, and I
Right.
think
So
that's what
you
we're
get
trying
the
to say.
same house in Houston and you get it in the suburbs, it'd be the same price and the cost would be way more because of the tax rate and or the HOA, right?
Mhm.
The
Right.
Homeowners Association
Yeah.
that is a requirement. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a voluntary,
Yeah,
it's a
it's not
mandatory.
Most of them. 9 out of 10.
Well,
yeah.
this is such a great conversation.
Yeah.
And but we do have to wrap it up.
Yep.
And we so appreciate you
Thank you,
coming on
Tatiana.
the
Thank
show
you, guys.
today and sharing that great information.
Thank you for having me. You mind if I share my information? So
Absolutely, go for
it.
All
Yes.
right, so you guys can actually, I'm not used to the mic thing. You guys can actually apply at www.mortgagelinkqueen.com. That's also my social media handle, Mortgage Link Queen. Mortgage.
Oh, that's
Link
you?
Queen. That's me.
Yeah.
I done sat here all this
All
I
time.
got my curly hair today.
Okay.
That's why.
Well, thanks again for joining us.
Thank
This
you, guys.
has been Selling Houston POV.
All right.
All right.